Hello, beautiful lights. I am your host, Kimberly Barrett. Welcome to the Sharing Love and Light Show, Vibration and Consciousness on the Planet. I am a psychic medium, quantum energy healer, and intuitive coach here to help you experience light and love. On this show, I will help you tap into your personal power and shift your energy so you can step into your life's purpose and manifest your dreams. I believe that love is not a verb, it is a state of being. Stay with me for the next hour and unlock the quantum energy gifts that are already in you. You're listening to the Sharing Love and Light Show starting now. Hello, beautiful lights. We're back. I'm your host, Kimberly Barrett. You're listening to the Sharing Love and Light Show on Transformation Talk Radio. I have an amazing guest with us today who is going to share her experience, strength, and hope with us. She's going to talk about finding your divine purpose and living it. She is an amazing mother of two, holistic lifestyle coach, wellness brand manager, intuitive energy worker, board certified nutrition expert, certified yoga instructor, doula, and more. So welcome, Alana Roach. Hi, Alana.
Hi, Kim. Thanks so much. And I'm actually now a mother of 4 because my partner has 2 as well. So we are.
Oh, that's right. Family. We added 2 more kids to the mix.
Yes.
And a partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is amazing. I am so grateful to have you on here. We come on each week to talk about sharing our love and our light so that we can have an effect on the vibration and consciousness on this planet. And I know that you were talking about coming on and sharing about your divine purpose. So tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I am so passionate about helping other people find their divine purpose because I feel like the planet needs us to find what we're good at, what we're meant to do, what we naturally love doing as well, so that when we are going throughout our work week, we're actually doing something that we believe in, that we're passionate about. And then that's when the divine flow comes in and actually helps us to navigate every step of the way towards our biggest dream vision of what that life purpose leads to and is. So my own personal experience with finding my life purpose completely transformed my life, my direction in 2009, around there. And I just can't imagine living any other way than sinking into joy and creativity and love and inspiration on a daily basis. I feel like it is the only way to live.
Yeah, so some of our listeners might feel that's a little unattainable right now. So tell us a little bit about kind of like where you came from and how you started to tap into your life purpose. Tell us a little bit of your story.
Sure. And of course, like unattainable, we can't be joyful all the time, but it's holding that awareness of our truest self being that joy at the very, very core of who we are at all times. So that is the goal. And the story that you're asking about is that when I was younger, I wasn't given the tools that I needed to deal with certain things. I never felt like I belonged. I used, drinking and partying when I was a teen through early 20s to blend in and also to hide. I had all these amazing gifts that I didn't quite understand at the time, and I felt judged for them. So when I hit a breaking point around 21, where I felt like I was truly at a crossroads because I could either go down this path of partying and, basically wasting my life away, or I could have the experience of, truly going for it in every single way, mind, body, spirit, and getting myself together. And the reason that I was able to do that is because I found meditation and yoga and prayer And these things miraculously changed my life. I had a dream one night before I chose to, completely surrender everything I knew and step into this divine life purpose. And the dream was that I was surrounded by angels, whole room full of angels. And they were looking at me as I was sitting on the couch, and they said, she's going to miss the point. She has such a big purpose and she's going to die. And I was afraid that I truly was going to die. I couldn't handle substances. I'm way too sensitive to drink, and drinking was literally killing me. So I'm so glad that I answered the call because life is actually very, very good when I allow it to be. And me, and I can talk more about what I do, but I've traveled the world teaching about, God, divine, and helping other people find their passion for life. And I love just giving people hope.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, I think you were telling me this on the phone the other day, a little bit about what we're like when we're not in our divine purpose. Because I think people will really relate to, I know for me, you were sharing stuff and I was like, I've been in that when I'm like staring at the TV, or I'm overeating, or I'm, drudging through things, right? Whatever it is. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how we can start to tap into that divine purpose and start to shift it. So tell me a little bit about some of the symptoms you were telling me of knowing that, you're not on the path. I know one of them you said similar to mine, where I was, drinking my life away for a little while there and not facing anything and not healing, not being where I needed to be. Right. So tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'd love to. Yes, of course. The symptoms can be addiction. To anything, right? It can be addiction to drinking, to food, to TV, to numbing out in any which way. And other symptoms can be depression or lethargy. Other symptoms can be you feel confused about what to do next. Confusion is usually a sign that you're out of alignment with your purpose. Other symptoms can be reaching outside of yourself to make you feel happy, relying on that relationship to make you feel whole. Pretty much anytime we look outside of ourselves for happiness, we're off the mark, because everything that we need is truly within.
Oh, I love hearing that. And then you mentioned also like not feeling accepted for who you really are. And so having some gifts when you were younger. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know I had a lot of gifts when I was younger that were kind of squashed and people didn't understand them. And I know a lot of my listeners are, empathic and have like other gifts. So tell me about a little bit of that in your journey.
Oh my God, that was like I'm supposed to be talking about it. Oh my gosh. I know. Oh gosh. One of my big purpose objectives lately that's been coming through my meditation is helping the children, right? Helping the children, especially the sensitive children. And I believe all children are sensitive, but especially the naturally attuned to their abilities, psychic, empaths, etc. I want to help them navigate these things, because if you're like me and grew up in an environment where empaths were not talked about, of course, that generation, it wasn't really talked about in most homes. Or, astral traveling in my dreams. I couldn't really tell my mother that because she wouldn't get it at the time, but I was so empathic. I was so clairvoyant. I remember I could hear, I could be clairaudient when I was younger, but I shushed it away because I thought I would be called crazy. Anytime I would talk about my dreams, I would sort of just shoot away. And then I believe a lot of empaths grow up in homes where maybe emotions weren't allowed. And I think it could be, it's very sad, of course, but it's also maybe a part of our training, why we are so very warrior-like today for the next generation of the rainbow children and the crystal children who are just love and emanate that and don't have to go through the lessons that we went through. But I just remember walking into the room when I was like 3, 4, 5, and I could feel all of the emotions, everybody that was in there. And that was a lot for me because I had no idea what was happening. I would take it on. I remember I would take on, oh my gosh, all these like lower energies of people everywhere I went, and I had no idea what was going on. But retrospectively, it makes sense.
I love that you're sharing all of this because I relate so much in my own childhood. And I know some of my listeners that are going to be listening to this recorded or listening to this live right now really relate to, when we talk about empathic, it's feeling other people's feelings and feeling sort of like I talk to my audience all the time about how we are all made of energy. And we're all made of energy and vibration and frequency. And someone that's really empathic can really feel and sense the energy that's in the room or the energy that's coming from someone. And as a child, being that sensitive and not knowing how to navigate it. So I love that you're talking about how can we help our children to be able to be sensitive in this way and, really use it as a superpower instead, like empathic superpowers, right? And I love what you were talking about. I share that I'm a psychic medium. So I love that you talked about the astral projection. And I know myself, I was communicating with spirits when I was little, and that was not understood, right? And I didn't understand it. So I really didn't have the guidance until I got older. And I love that you're talking about this. And also that you just talked about some of those symptoms. I know for myself that I've gotten into those periods of feeling really confused about where to go, what I'm going to do about, getting depressed or, going into certain addictions, even if it's like video games or watching, Netflix or Prime or whatever it is that you're binge watching, that can be a sign and a symptom that perhaps you're not quite in alignment with who you really are. And I feel like you're saying the same thing that I like to spread the message. Now is the time to really start to step into who we really are. Any further comments on that before we take a break? We have about 1 minute.
Oh, just to stay in the remembrance that we are all love and we are not fear. So that is the switch. That's the shift that we get to make moment to moment.
You go back to one of my radio shows. If people are listening, you can go back to my host page on Transformation Talk Radio. And we talk about shifting from fear to love. And I love that that's what you're saying, is remembering that the truth is we are love, and that love is an energy we can tap into. Alana, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk more with Alana of Explorations of Self. She's going to tell us more about how we can find our divine purpose and live it. We will be back shortly. Welcome back, beautiful lights. You're listening to the Sharing Love and Light Show with me, Kimberly Barrett, and I am here with Alana Roach tonight. Before we get into our conversation, I want to make sure you know how to contact us. I can be reached through my website, sharingloveandlightshow.com, or through my Facebook page, Kimberly Barrett, Psychic Medium Intuitive Coach, at facebook.com/activate777. And you can reach Alana Roach through her website, Explorations of Self. That's EXPLORATIONSOFSELF.com. So getting back to Alana, we were talking about living our divine purpose, talking about the excitement of the new energies on this earth and how we can help get us into alignment. So tell us a little bit more about your journey into helping people really start to shine their light in their divine purpose.
Sure. Yes. I feel like, again, it started probably in my early 20s, but I didn't know it yet. So I was going through a big spiritual awakening, what yogis call Kundalini Rising. So Kundalini Rising is a spiritual awakening that happens all at once. And it usually happens when you're a little older, not always, but like when you're in your 20s or 30s or at a crossroads, sort of can happen after near-death experiences as well. So when that happened, I saw and felt the presence of God so powerfully. And it was right around that time of that dream I mentioned. But I could feel it so powerfully for about a month. And I just felt bliss. And I also saw different realms. I also knew that in certain realms, evil was a thing. And that, of course, like God was very, very present and could banish the evil, but that there were different things going on multiple levels for all of us living and not in these physical bodies. Yeah. So because that all happened within a month's time that I was given all of these visions and downloads, I knew that I was meant to help people somehow. I just didn't know how yet. And so over the course of the last, I guess, like 12 years or so now, I've just been doing the research and following the things that I feel called to do. And these things that I feel called to do are the things that I'm truly passionate about, because I believe that we were all put on this planet to do some things specifically that we can only do in our certain way. And it's not just one thing, but it's usually a gamut of things. So long story short, that's how I started on the path. And every single step of the way, every single year, I was helping people just in crossing paths, really, until I started to become a businesswoman in this world of helping people. And then since the pandemic, I mean, I've just been going from teaching yoga in person and doing marketing online to then having all of these life coaching and shamanic students all finding me on the web. And it's like firing off. I mean, I have more coaching clients now than ever. And I'm just so grateful because everybody's hungry to not go back to the way things were before the pandemic. They don't want to go back to the 9 to 5. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like they want to find what truly makes them happy, because they're realizing things are so uncertain in this world, right? So it's like, why not? Life is short.
And I love what you shared, that you had that spiritual awakening. And I think that's a huge part of what I'm hearing from you, is really like starting to wake up and learn that we don't have to depend on things that are outside of us. And that's what I'm hearing from your story, that for a long time it was, what can I get from being in a relationship, or, maybe if I get the right job or have the right status or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden it became, how can I just be helpful to people?
That's exactly it.
Myself, and this is what I talk about a lot with my listeners, is how can I get, and I'm going to say an Abraham Hicks way of saying it, tuned in, tapped in, and turned on in my higher power, in my own God of my understanding, right? How can I get centered in me and my energy so that I can then help others? And then all of the sudden it's like exploding for you. And I hear a lot of like maybe manifestations in there. The more you live your own personal joy, and the more you live in your own appreciation, everything starts falling into place. Right. So tell me how, I know this is a little off topic, but tell me how explorations of self came about. Tell us about what that is and kind of where it came from. And then the changes since the pandemic, right? You've had to make a lot of going with the flow.
Oh yeah. I mean, we all small business owners and large business owners have had to make, big and small adjustments since the pandemic, mostly big.
It's been a challenge, right?
It's been an interesting challenge. I've tried to view it as a game, even though I know that's immature, but like, that's how I stay excited. I actually think it's very smart. So I'm like, how can I shift and pivot? And of course I pray, and then I get the direction eventually.
I was going to ask you, because what I'm hearing is when these things happen, we can be faced with a lot of fear and a lot of stress and a lot of, oh my God, what's going to happen next? That uncertainty, what are things you do in your own life that helps you through that uncertainty? Like, what are practical things that like really help you get through it?
Sure. So, and then I'll circle back to explorations of self, because it actually is very related. So things that help me when I have been in uncertainty are slowing down always. I pray and I'll sit still and meditate, even if it's for a few moments. But when I'm very confused and the confusion lasts for a while, and I'm talking weeks, sometimes it has lasted months, right? On something that's very important for me to learn, right? Then I have to slow down extra. I get to slow down extra, meditate longer, and just wait. And I know that I'm being called to be patient, and then also just wait for clarity. Journaling, dancing, doing yoga, connecting with other positive, high vibe community. All of these things help on a day-to-day basis, but it all does come back to my connection with divine, which I get through mindfulness practices. That's always number one for me.
And mindfulness is that paying attention on purpose in the present moment, right? Without judging what you're noticing in that moment, really doing those mindful practices.
Absolutely. And I had a wonderful lady. She is a YouTube star. Goodness, I can't remember her name right now, but she's in Hawaii. She's amazing, lovely. This is years ago. She told me that anything that she has confusion over is usually the universe saying, this is where you grow. This particular topic is where you grow. So I'll find what is jarring me, and I'll hunt it down, and I'll make that my spiritual practice. And I'll start doing all the work I need to do around that one area, because it usually is that one area, the sticking points, right? Where we sort of like don't want to let go.
Yeah, tell us a little bit, like areas, meaning like, is that work? Is that, something maybe a resentment I didn't want to let go of, or relationships, or?
I mean, it could be a relationship. It could be an expectation. It really is individual.
Sometimes I have these expectations, and I need to like look at them and let them go and unpack and find out the truth, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it could be a belief, a self-belief that we get to let go of. And this is our process. We don't know until it happens. And usually retrospectively, we get to be like, wow, now I see. Right?
And then life becomes about like really learning and growing, rather than like labels and feeling bad and, all that, beating ourselves up, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So back to explorations of self. How did that come out?
Sure. So explorations of self is right on topic. It is a huge part of my purpose. And the name of explorations of self came through when I was living in India. I was backpacking through India right before I got certified to teach yoga. This was in 2010 through 2011. And while I was there, I was taking a respite. I was considering going to Naropa in Colorado, which is this amazing like Buddhist college where you can meditate. And while I was in India, I was there with my ex-boyfriend, who was such a great teacher for me. But I did a lot of introspection, meditation, yoga while I was there. And I decided through a lot of self-inquiry that I didn't want to go to a four-year college, because I already knew what I wanted to do. And the route that I was taking was certified. And that was where I was strongly feeling like I was being led. And so I also knew that I wanted to do everything I loved, because that is how to live a purpose-driven life. And I was finding what I truly loved through knowing thyself. More and more, I was discovering who I was and what I like to do. So my ex-boyfriend and I came up with some names, and explorations of self was the final taker.
I love it.
Yeah, I bought the URL and I made it a travel blog at first, which turned into international retreats, which turned into everything that I do now, from, yoga to marketing.
And, we're going to go on another little break, but when we get back, I really want to explore more about what you're saying with, a purpose-driven life, being one that you can really enjoy and love, and finding out what you love, and then being able to follow that intuition to do what you love. So when we get back, we'll talk about that a little bit more. We're going to take a short break and we'll see you soon. Welcome back. You are listening to the Sharing Love and Light show with me, Kimberly Barrett. And I am here with a special guest tonight, Alana Roach, founder of Explorations of Self. We are talking about divine purpose. Before we get back into our conversation, I want to make sure you know how to contact us. You can reach me through my website, sharingloveandlightshow.com. You can also reach Alana Roach through her website, explorationsofself.com. So we're going to come back into this conversation. I love you so much, Alana.
Love you too.
We've been talking about really like finding that divine purpose, being able to live in that love and that light, and then shining it on others. Tell us a little bit more about your understanding of sort of like divine purpose. How do we even get started moving toward that?
Oh, yes. So I always have people make a list when they ask that question. And I say, make a list of everything that you love doing, and also that you just love, and then things that you're naturally gifted at. And so if you think back to even when you were a child, what did you accelerate at? Was it art? Was it, writing? Was it technology? Usually there are clues when we reflect. So those clues are, again, they're what you're naturally good at and what you enjoy, which is not what I was told in school, in public school.
No, complete opposite.
Complete opposite, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's such a gift to be able to share this with my children of, following your passions and what you're naturally good at.
And I think that one of the questions that pops in my mind, and I'm wondering if some of my listeners think this, is, I'm working 2 or 3 jobs, trying to make ends meet. It's a little tough. What would be suggestions, just kind of like little baby steps they can take to kind of start to move toward, they've written the list, they see what they love, but maybe it's kind of hard to take those steps into it.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, just taking the steps of doing one small thing every day towards your living of your purpose, your goal. So I don't suggest, unless this is all on you, but I do not suggest leaving your 9 to 5 day one. I suggest
don't just quit your job and think that everything's going to fall into place, right?
Right. Exactly. I mean, if you are that established in your mindset and like your right, your vibratory practices, if you're like where Abraham is, that could happen. But
it's got to be believable. You've got to really be in the vibration of it in order for it to unfold that quickly, right?
That's it. And
usually we have things we need to, we usually have things we need to work through and get. And I love what you're saying, that vibration and alignment, right? Getting in alignment with what it is you really want, right?
Right. And how do we do that? It's like we get out of the wanting energy and we tap into the energy of, I already have it. I love Marie Manasheri talks about these what if statements. What if I'm in a happy, healthy marriage? How does that feel? She'll say, what if I am joyful? And then you're like, what if I am joyful? And you feel into that,
and just being in the feeling. That feel like?
Yeah. Just being in that feeling calls it to you,
you're bringing back memories for me, because I remember being in a job that I wasn't necessarily that happy with. And I remember practicing some of the stuff you're talking about, where it was like, what would it feel like if I had I think I went with like, I got along with all my coworkers and I got along with my boss and life was happy. And I found myself, I'm a social worker. So I found myself on a hospice unit with doctors that practiced Reiki, right? So how do you end up there, right? And I felt like just the baby steps toward alignment. It wasn't quite 100% where I wanted to be, but it was getting closer and closer to where I wanted to be. So having patience with the process, right?
Yes, we all have this beautiful divine training, I like to call it. And it's like this invisible guidance. And it is a wild journey once you step into it consciously. It's just like so awesome and challenging sometimes, but worth it.
And talk to me more about, so we have this guidance system. Is that sort of like that intuition that we have? That type of kind of guidance, that intuition. And with that guidance system, if we start to live that intuitively inspired life, right, then we can start to really move forward in that way. Is that one of the practices? You know, tell me more about that, like how you integrate that in.
Definitely. I think, you know, it's important to mention the foundational practices of intuition. So it is important to be healthy, mind, body, spirit. So if you are ripping and roaring and not really treating your body well through, you know, addiction or whatever it is, it might be harder to hear that still small voice. So taking self-care is very, very important.
So maybe getting help for the addiction, right? Or getting help for the alcohol problem, or getting help for the eating you know, that getting some kind of help maybe would be a first step toward living that divine purpose.
Just the first step. And that's all you need to do is just take a little step, and then it starts to come in. It's just making yourself a priority. That's it. And you don't have to do it perfectly. It's just, you make that choice and then it starts to turn. You know,
and I can hear some of my clients now, but I was taught that I need to take care of everybody else and that it's selfish. So I'm going to throw this one at you because I get this so much from people that are loving and caring and they want to help the world and they want to be of service. And yet all their energy, we talk about energy spent, right? All their energy is going out to everybody else. How do they get back to that self-care, right?
Sure. Yeah. So, yes. How do they get back to that self-care? I'm thinking about the other thing you said too, about how do we follow our intuition? So I'm going to circle back to that after the self-care piece, but getting back to the self-care usually requires, you know, a lot of hard lessons, right, in the beginning, but it doesn't have to be that way. And over time, when we learn that, hey, we really do need to slow down. Hey, we really do need to take an hour break in the middle of the day. Hey, we do deserve like a bath at the end of the night. And the more that we give ourselves permission to do these small things of self-care every day, the more we start to relax. And relaxation and meditation and presence all lend themselves to intuition, because intuition is in the moment. And it's really important that we honor our self-care so that we can actually be in the moment, not in our head.
Yeah. So how many of us are running around like chickens with our heads cut off, right? Like we're running around. I talk about when you go in the house and you put your keys down and you put your phone down, and then a half hour later, you don't remember where you put them. And it's because I wasn't there when I put them down. And so practicing that mindfulness, being able to take that pause. And I love what you're saying, that it's letting go of this idea that it's only everyone else matters. I also matter. And I tell caregivers all the time, if you don't care for the caregiver, there's going to be no caregiver left to do the caregiving. You know? So you've got to like take care of you. It's very, very important to take care of you. It's not selfish. It's enlightened self-interest. There's a difference between selfish, which is constant thought of self with little concern for others, and actually taking care of self and finding that balance, right? Finding that like balance, right?
I was just thinking about that the other day, how important it is to set the intention for balance in the beginning of the day, right? It's so important. And that's like basic stuff, but I forget it all the time. And then I remember and I'm like, oh yeah, today's a different day.
Yeah.
Balance is going to be different today.
And then I love what you said. I'm going to loop back to that intuition that you were talking about. And then the other piece of it is that if I'm not present in the moment, I'm not going to be able to hear that intuition. If I don't pause and spend 5 minutes with myself, I'm not going to hear the quiet whispers of my intuition. And that's the truth of it for me. If I'm staring at the TV, if I'm, whatever it is, actually my mindfulness practice is when I start staring at the TV and eating, I'm mindfully aware that there's something I don't want to look at and there's something I don't want to be with. That's my mindful awareness. So I offer that to any listener that falls into some of that, as I become mindfully aware that I'm struggling with being present, right? And when we get in that, like, really, I love when you talk about meditation, when we really learn how to ground in, be present in the moment. I'll give a shout out for Insight Timer app. There's Calm app. There's what are the other ones? My Life app, Headspace. There's a ton of them that they offer. Some of it is at a cost and a lot of it is free, especially since COVID hit, that you can actually get, lessons on how to be able to come present, that it's like 2 to 3 minutes out of your busy day, 5 minutes out of your busy day, right? For moms, it's like go in the bathroom and shut the door and do your meditation on the toilet kind of thing, right? But how important it is, because that's where the intuition is in the moment, when I can learn how to, and I love this, I'm just going to say it before we go on break, is I have a friend that tells me, set your intention to let go of all the past thoughts. So I'm like intending on purpose to not play with any past thoughts. I know they're going to be there, but I'm going to intend to not play with them. And then to intend to not play with the future thoughts. And then to not play with any of the other thoughts and just focus on my breathing. And all of a sudden the intuition comes in like this. It's kind of like if I'm practicing one mindful in an activity and I stop thinking about the problem, all of a sudden the solutions start coming in. So that's like that. Yeah, I'm hearing you on that. So looping back to that, when I get quiet enough and I'm in that self-care, making sure, and the tough one for me, making sure I'm drinking water, getting enough rest, any of those type of things, right? So before we take a break, anything else really quick you want to add?
Just say yes to joy. Say yes to yes.
Yes to your joy.
And then you're listening to your intuition, as if it's a firm yes in your gut. If it's a maybe, then don't do it. Yes.
Don't do it. But it's got to be that joyful, yes, this is the right thing for me. If it's tightening you up, that's not the way to go. All right. So we're going to come back and start to wrap things up around divine purpose. I'm here with Alana Roach, and we'll be back soon. Welcome back, beautiful lights. You're listening to the Sharing Love and Light Show with me, Kimberly Barrett. I am here with Alana Roach from Explorations of Self. I'm going to let you guys know again how to get in contact with us. You can reach me through my website, Kimberly Barrett. It's sharingloveandlightshow.com. And you can reach Alana Roach through the website, explorationsofself.com. So coming back to Alana, we are talking about finding your divine purpose and living it. I think a wrap up for this, you've been talking to us so beautifully about coming from that place of like depression and confusion, not really feeling like you're in your purpose, living that way, maybe even in addictions, and then getting that help, turning it around, and then following intuition. And I love what you're talking about. And then writing down things that you love was a suggestion from Alana. Write down things that you really love to do, things you loved as a child. I always call it like wave the magic wand. And while you're writing that list, don't think about any of the things that would block you from being able to do it. Just write what you love, right? And then being able to follow that intuition. So we're back with Alana. She's sharing all this beautiful light with us. I don't know if you guys can feel this while you're listening to us or while you're watching this, but Alana just radiates light out, right? So anyone that is an energy worker, light leader, star seeds out there, you can feel that energy. It is just shining through her tonight. She's going, woo, give it to you. So to wrap things up, what are kind of key points you want to leave with the listeners about not just finding that purpose, but kind of like living your life in your purpose?
Sure. And another thing to add to after that list, which goes right with this question, is I like to ask people, how would you live and what would you be doing if you weren't afraid of being judged for it? Ooh. And that usually blows the can open, way, way open, because, right? Like how often can we say that we don't do something because, ooh, somebody might not like it, right? Especially our family.
You just said that. I'm like, coming out of the closet and letting everyone know I'm a psychic medium.
Yeah, right. It's a big
one. And the faces when I say, yeah, I'm a medium. I can see, your aunt on your right or whatever it is, right?
Yes. Unless you were raised in a home where that was like talked about, but exactly like, hey, I'm a medium, or hey, I'm an intuitive, or hey, I'm an intuitive yoga retreat, whatever I am. It's just like owning it.
Or just, I love people and I want to do healings, or just whatever it is that you want to do. You could decide that you love dancing, and how are you going to bring that into the world? Or you might decide whatever it is, right? We're both intuitives and we're both healers, and we do coaching and that kind of stuff. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind, but there's so many other ways. I know scientists that like, what's that science project that you would work on if there were no restrictions in your mind at all? What would you do? What would you bring out into the world, right?
That's it. And it's that self-worth piece, which is so critical. It's just knowing that you're worthy of being that and living that and knowing it and owning it, like you're worthy.
There's our next show together, is talking about how to build that self-worth and get to that worthy place, right?
Yes.
What are your suggestions on really like tapping into that self-worth?
The worthiness. Oh, so many things. I mean, affirmations work when we use them on a daily basis, and you can unpack affirmations a lot, but to really just drop into the resonance of gratitude for a start is like thinking about something that naturally brings you joy. And there's usually at least one thing or a person that easily gives you happiness. And so when we can shift into that energy and then drop the story, just be with the energy, we are already working on our self-worth. It's just being in that love, and then saying like, I am whole, I am worthy. You can tap it in with EFT as a tapping technique.
Oh, and using the proven freedom technique.
Yes. Right. And right.
Love
exactly.
Myself as I am. Right.
Tapping behind the heart, on the sternum, under the eyes, just like saying all of these lovely things about yourself and doing it on a consistent basis. And the more that you do what you love, so this goes hand in hand with living your purpose, the more worthy you feel. So it's getting out of your comfort zone maybe initially, and then again and again later on, of course, as the journey goes, but it's continuing to get to that edge and then doing it anyway as you feel guided, of course. And then you feel so confident from just doing the things that your ego says, you can't do that because you're going to change.
Oh, and I
You know,
love that is sharing that you will have that critical mind that comes up and it tries to say all this stuff. And I just look at the critical mind with mindfulness and I'm like, hey, I'm not listening to you now. It's like 1, 2, 3, be gone. And then I do have a friend that was talking last night, and I love that you brought it up about how she's been manifesting like a champ. And she's just been really manifesting all this amazing stuff. And she said, I just spend the day looking for things to appreciate. And she's like, Abraham Hicks is not kidding. And you can find anything to appreciate, even when you're in like crappy situations. There's something there that you can appreciate. And I was in a situation where I was with a whole group of people. They had a completely opposite viewpoint me as I do. And I said, I'm just appreciating where they are. I can hold appreciation for people that don't think like I do, right? And then holding the appreciation for, being able to hold my viewpoint while I'm holding your viewpoint without changing my viewpoint, and just hanging in that appreciation. I can appreciate a sunset. I can appreciate my cats. I think animals for me are a little easier to appreciate, right? Just turning my mind where I'm able to think about the things that are easy to appreciate, right? And that can lead you into that greater kind of love feeling. I also talk about breathing into it, really like using the breath. And that when you drop the thinking and you really follow the breath, that you can come into the moment and really call in kind of like more love energy. And it's hard to do when you're really angry or really down. So I love that you talked about doing yoga or dancing, or, movement is really good for kind of even shaking it out, getting all that stress and negativity out of the body so that you can then fill yourself up with these more positive things. I am so grateful that you've come on tonight to talk about this.
Yay, me too. I'm so grateful that you had me and that we've been able to have this conversation, because it's like,
and I've watched some of your journey from, not really being in your life purpose, being in situations where you were really learning and growing. And then I watched both of us. Like, I love what you said, you guys out there. When you start to set your vibration and you start to get in that place where you're in appreciation, you start to find other people that are in that. And I have agreements with a lot of my friends that if I call them, we're going to go into that higher place. We're not going to complain about things. We're not going to spin out on the story. We're going to talk about how can we get back to appreciation. Can you feel those feelings and let them go? And yeah, I see that I'm in victim right now, but can I shift it? And I love that you're talking about that. So again, kind of wrapping it up, tell us a little bit about what you would like to leave the listeners. We have about 2 minutes left. So give us a little spiel on what you would like to leave us with tonight.
Oh, sure. I'm just really grateful to be here. Please do visit my site at explorationsofself.com. And all I want to leave you with is just, I just really want you to live, your most joyful, peaceful life. I know that, life can be challenging. And I just feel like the more that we have these conversations with like-minded collectives like this one, the more that we're able to be genuine, like you just said, and have our feelings and our experiences while being on the path towards living our life's truth and destiny. So I pray that everybody, finds what makes them happy if they haven't already, and continues to do their inner work to create major change within, and then remember that it ripples outward.
Oh, I am just so blessed to have you on the show tonight, talking about these beautiful, beautiful love and light things for my listeners. So again, this is Alana Roach. You can reach her through explorationsofself.com. Thank you, Alana, so much for sharing your love and light with us. We're going to wrap up. Our next episode of Sharing Love and Light Show will be on the first Thursday in October. Save the date for October 5th at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. We're going to have special guest Melanie Joel. I'm tripping over my own words today. It's cracking me up. So Melanie Joel will be on. She is another incredible yoga instructor, breathwork coach. She has worked with some of the most amazing people. I think Britney Spears was one of her clients. She's in New York City, and she's going to come on with us and share her love and light next week. Alana, or in 2 weeks. I'm grounding myself back in as we speak, feeling my feet on the ground, reminding everyone, grounding in, coming back. Alana, thank you so much for being on tonight. You are such a blessing to all of us, and for sharing about finding that divine purpose and that, you know, really starting to live in your love, your light, and your truth. So we will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for being on. We'll see you later.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Sharing Love and Light Show, Vibration and Consciousness on the Planet, with me, Kimberly Barrett. Remember, love is not a verb, it is a state of mind. You've spent the last hour experiencing love and light and tapping into the quantum energy that already exists in you. But the journey doesn't stop here. Tune in every first and third Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio, as we continue exploring the energetic shifts happening in and around us. With love and light, see you next time.